put this gun in your purse being the lyric, being the chorus.
That's a
It's
Playboy.
almost
This is a Playboy Cardi song to me. It's an early
the,
stage
the
Playboy
the
Cardi.
repetitiveness of it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
repetitiveness of it, of the chorus, and the fact
Mm,
that it's super like the syllables are super small together. It remind me a lot
yeah.
of Playboy Cardi.
And I think maybe that's at first I was like, Chance, you're above this. Like you can do better than this. After all, I was like, I don't hate it. So,
No, bro. There's no above Playboy Cardi. He is the top. There's no
oh,
above.
good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. Everyone watching on YouTube, we love you. We appreciate you. Like this video, subscribe to us, and leave us a comment. Let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, aka Champion Scribe, and we're here with His Royal Highness, aka the Munch, or no longer a Munch. How we
No
go?
longer, no
A,
longer.
oh, turning your back on the Munchin, aka no longer a Munch, aka the Bunny, aka Green Goblin King Grants.
Welcome back, everybody. Album mode. This time we're reviewing the great, the once great Chance the Rapper
Once
and
great is crazy.
yeah, and his latest album, Starline. So Starline, Chance the Rapper, this is something I've actually been looking forward to for almost years. I was convinced for a while Chance has to come back. There's no way he's just gonna walk away the big day and that's it. You know,
Hmm.
like I just can't I couldn't imagine it. Right. So I had been waiting. I've just been not even Birdman, just like waiting and just waiting. And, arms crossed in front of my waist. It's like, it's
Hmm.
coming, guys. It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. And I'm not even that huge of a Chance the Rapper fan. Not gonna lie to you,
Yeah.
but it's just one of those scenarios where I'm like, there's no way he just goes out like this, you know? Like I knew something had to come.
Yeah, he's not gonna Lauren Hill it. He's not gonna Frank Ocean it. Like he's coming back. I
Hmm.
was never worried about that because I might have mentioned this before on the podcast. Obviously, we talk about Chance's whole career leading up to this point. It's our first ever Chance the Rapper review, but I didn't think his album was that bad. The Big Day in 2019, his last album. I was on vacation when that album came out. It was one of those albums I kind of saved as soon as I got Wi-Fi. I'm like, okay, I was traveling the day it came out. I said, okay, I got Wi-Fi. Let me download the album that came out today. And I remember hearing it like while I'm kind of waiting in the airport or going through security. And no songs really stood out to me that I was like, okay, I gotta listen to this. But I
Hmm.
thought it was decent. And when I got on Twitter the next day, Twitter disagreed with me. And it's so funny because I think in my mind, I was like, the rapping is good, the beats are good. I don't like it as much as his previous work,
Hmm.
but I wasn't as upset. But that was probably one of the biggest times we've seen the internet turn on our artists. Because that was kind of people calling this his comeback album. I would say that's pretty correct here.
Yeah. I think that Chance the Rapper at that time, which was I want to say
2019.
2019, uh, he was, how we were talking about JID last week.
Hmm.
Um, we were like, this person is next up, genuinely.
Yeah, that
Like
was real.
that was genuine and it was apparent. And
Hmm.
I would even say it was borderline obvious after the coloring book came out.
It already happened. Like I want to go back in time to him getting to that point because when I looked back at some of the things, I was like, he was that guy. Like
Yeah, like he was at the pinnacle, and the big day was like, there isn't really, I don't know, I'm trying to think, maybe there's like some sort of historical reference that you can make where it's like he was at the top, like we were like next person, and he was like, I am the next person, and then he was standing on top of the mountain, and then he jumped off the mountain.
yeah, I can't think of an example that matches that or mirrors that. I think the thing that's so interesting when you look back at his career, and of course we're gonna go from 10 Day up until now, this is his fifth project, second album, technically.
Hmm.
But I think if he had not had Coloring Book, and just went straight from acid rap to the big day, how do things look different?
It would be over, I think.
Because I think the big day, it felt like once this album comes out, he is out of here.
Hmm.
And in reality, I think he wasn't done. I don't think he needed to disappear for this long. I think even up until that point, he had enough of a catalog to still do some big numbers and tour and continue. But I
Hmm.
think because there was so much pressure on that album, calling it the big day as well, it was almost like because the anticipation was so high, the flop felt even bigger. Um, I got into trance around the 10-day acid rap era, when he was on tour with Childish Gambino. I was a
Hmm.
huge Gambino fan at that time. I was like, okay, that I like this match they got going on. His debut mixtape was in 2012. So he's a veteran in this game. That's 14 years ago
I
now,
know.
15, 13 years ago. He recorded it during one of his high school suspensions. I called it 10 Day. The follow-up, which came a year later, was Acid Rap, which talk about that like early 2010s blog era of music. Acid Rap was one of those projects that hit the street and just totally tore things up. That's one of the last, I think, big projects of the real mixtape era.
Yeah, I think that I remember how do I describe this? I remember watching Warriors games with this song playing in the background on let's say an illicit site. This was always being played during like the commercial breaks. They would mute the sound on the broadcast and just play Chance the Rapper 24/7 in the background. During this time, 2013, I feel like he didn't really pop at 2013 though. It was like 2014, like a year after it felt like, where it really started to get huge, acid rap. And he basically was I felt like he was again, it felt like he was just the next guy. Like it just felt like he was up. Acid Rap was one of those albums that didn't really sound like anything else. He was part of that Chicago clique of like him, Vic Mensa, No Name, uh, BJ the Kid, like BJ the Chicago Kid. I think all those guys were coming up at the same time, and he was like the leader of that pack. Saba, I think, was part of that group as well.
Mick Jenkins I'd put in there as
Mick
well.
Jenkins, Mick Jenkins, the Waters. So
Yeah.
that Chicago clique was coming up, and when Acid Rap had dropped, it was big, but then I think it was one of those things that had like a long tail, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time until Coloring Book came out.
Yeah, this was the era where a tour could almost break you as an artist. Because that's what
Yeah.
happened with Chance is like he went on tour after this project. And then everything changed. The one thing I think is so interesting about this era is that what people thought was going to be next or who was going to be next is a different era in music because Childish Gambino was still bubbling at that time. Chance was bubbling, and it's like it's funny because none of the artists who have that kind of sound broke through in terms of the mainstream in that way.
Hmm.
But at that time, it felt like it could happen. I think the Drake effect was in its early stages where it's like, listen,
Yeah.
man, anything is possible. You don't got to be tough. Anything is, and it's
That's
so
still
funny.
possible.
No, it technically yes, but I think it's funny because Drake ended up turning out to be having a tougher persona than a lot of these guys,
Yeah.
even though we said that was an example of not having to be tough. But I want to talk about Coloring Book because I remember for me why that album stood out was it was probably the first time when an artist that I was early on, I didn't love their big projects because I didn't
Hmm.
love Coloring Book like everyone else did. But it was one of those albums where I heard people playing it and I'm like, you don't even like rap music. And you're playing
You're just a
Coloring
big
Book.
gospel fan.
Gospel, the danciness of some of the records, like the lightheartedness of some of the records. Like he was attracting fans from all different walks of life. And it was exclusively on Apple Music. Now, that's
Hmm.
something that doesn't happen anymore. It's obviously not really a thing, but he was kind of the flagship for that kind of deal. Now, we saw that happen after him, but he was big for that. And it was only on streaming. So it
Yeah.
was the first mixtape to chart on US Billboard 200 solely from streams. It got to number 8. And then as well, it was the first album that was a streaming only album to win Grammys. It won Best Rap Album. The single, No Problem with 2 Chainz and Lil Wayne, won Best Rap Performance, and he won Best New Artist. So I think when we talk about him being up next, like those awards will tell you enough. Like those are not awards everybody wins, especially all
Hmm.
in the same night. But as well, this is when his album was streaming only. That seems like a normal thing now. Everyone does it. But at that time, a streaming only project, a mixtape, had never done those things. So when you talk about him being up next, like he had the commercial success in a way that people don't usually have because these albums didn't do like normal numbers. Like this album peaked at number 8. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So he had the commercial success being such a big artist without actually having to do the numbers, which I don't think we've seen since then.
Yeah, the thing with his online only deal was that streaming wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. Most people, maybe I don't know, I would have to look at the data for this now, but I think most people currently listen to music via streaming. And when Coloring Book and especially Acid Rap came out, that was not the case. People, if you had Spotify Premium, that was like you really were into Spotify. Like you were in it, you know? Some people had Spotify. I remember back then I still have pretty much every MP3 of every album that I ever listened to, and I still have the vast majority of them now. But that is an anomaly in 2025. It is super convenient for the consumer today to have Spotify or Apple Music and just subscribe to that. It's as a consumer, music consumer, it is the best thing that has ever happened to music. For an artist, it's literally the worst thing that has literally ever happened to music, I think. But during that time, it was that middle ground where we were just making that jump, that true jump to everybody having Apple Music or Spotify or something like that. And he was at the nexus of it where they were actually paying certain artists to just release it on Apple Music, just release on Spotify, just release on Tidal, right? And he was uniquely situated in the space where everybody thought the Calling Book is going to be huge. And when Apple is interested in your music, and Apple is interested in anything that you do, you're getting paid. You're getting a
Cut the
lot of
check.
money.
Cut the check. A
Yeah,
hundred
so
percent.
he was in a very unique time. Like you occupied a space in a very unique time of music and just like internet history because from 2013 to 2016, I remember there was this person on TikTok, I can't remember their name right now, but they defined that this time, 2013, really like 2011 to 2016 as the lost era where like
Mm.
things like Snapchat was still like the it thing.
Shout out to
Instagram
Snapchat.
still had the normal, like it still looked like like a camera, right? Like the app logo and things like King Kylie was a thing. Oh, okay, King Kylie was a thing. Acid rap was like a theme song for people and stuff like that. The Warriors just becoming a thing. So he was part of that time frame of all of those things turning on an edge, and he just happened to be like the most poppin' artist at that time, at that specific time. And that most up and
Hmm.
coming and being able to capture so many people at that specific time that he could do something like that. And I thought I think that moment with Apple Music was like the moment where like, yo, you can only get a deal like that when you're the one, when you're
Yeah.
special. You can only get something like that when you're the next dude. And we've gotten to a point now where there literally hasn't even been a next dude. Like the people that were established and the top dogs at that time are
Mm.
still at the pinnacle or near the pinnacle. Their abilities have waned, but they're still at the mountaintop. So it's interesting to see like this was one of those blips where it was like, oh, there can be another
Yep.
level that somebody's about to get to.
I think I want to talk about sort of our favorite Chance records and
Yes.
leading into this project, but why I want to kind of take some time here and talk about those two mixtapes, Acid Rap and Coloring Book, is because this new album, Starline, feels like it's part of that lineage. The
Mm,
cover, the sonics of it, even the features on this album. And I think why I'm focused on that is because this was the end of the mixtape era, really where artists had this is a mixtape, this
This
is
is
the
the album.
album, and I think the best part about that era that I think a lot of the younger generation that weren't around for that are missing is kind of you could have a classic mixtape that could quote unquote go platinum, in the
Hmm.
mixtape world. You could have 500,000 downloads on Dat Piff, which is only one site, you know? So you could have an album that maybe is not charting on Billboard, but everyone has heard it. Everyone knows about it. Everyone listens to it.
Hmm.
And you can kind of make these, call them really masterpiece projects that everyone's going to hear that lead you into the album. And why this is unique for Chance is because he did that in a way where acid rap was the mixtape that he probably could have put out as an album. I think he probably could have,
Yeah.
but it was a mixtape. Dat Piff, Hot New Hip Hop, Two Dope Boys, LimeWire, Frostwire, however you were getting it. And then he led that into another mixtape that ended up on Apple Music. So I think that's a big part of that era that doesn't happen anymore because Big Day to me was the first album that he made.
Right.
He went into it as an album, made it as an album, and we saw how that went. We saw how that went. This project feels a lot more mixtape like. And why I bring that up is because a lot of the artists from the blog era, we talked a lot about guys like Wale, Meek Mill, that blog era. I think what categorized a lot of the people there is could you transition? You have this
Mhm.
great mixtape. Could you make the album that was that successful? Like someone like Drake was a big part of that because, I know you guys are probably too young for this, but at the time, a lot of people were saying "Thank Me Later" is good, but it's not so far gone. Now it had a
Oh,
lot had a lot of commercial success, which I think trumped everything. But as a full project, it was like, nah, "So Far Gone" is still the project. And I think a lot of artists kind of struggle with that, where their mixtapes wouldn't be as good or would be better than the albums they would eventually make. And Chance, I feel like, is from that era and is kind of a victim of that. When we talk about favorite Chance songs,
okay.
okay, there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, there is.
Chance has a lot of songs to choose from. Now, I don't know if I have like a real true blue favorite because I feel like I have favorite songs in waves.
Hmm.
Catch Me in summer of 2018, it could be this song. Catch Me this time, it could be this song. But I think of two songs, both from Acid Rap, maybe one of the best mixtapes of all time. Like I gotta say, it's
Possibly,
probably
yeah,
in that
for
in
real.
that category. Um, Interlude, That's Love. That's a song that I always think of when it comes to Chance. Just a unique record, from a lyrical standpoint. Sonically, no one is making songs like that really anymore. Even the group of guys who are in that lane, the Sabas and the Sminos, they don't even really have a That's Love. Like that song is really just an organ and some drums. You know what I mean? Like that's such a unique song in that way. And then him kind of being on topic the whole time.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other one for me, which I feel like has become a favorite of mine recently, because at the time I wouldn't have chosen this song, is Smoke Again with him and Ab-Soul. Like now that song kind of hits more to me. I don't know why, but at the time I would have gone with Cocoa Butter Kisses or Everybody Something. I used to love that song as well. But Smoke Again or That's Love, those are my two favorites right now. You got a favorite Chance the Rapper record? And in the comments, let us know. You can comment on Spotify now. You can comment on YouTube. Your favorite Chance the Rapper song of all time.
Yeah, I was looking it up. I was actually going through the discography because I was really thinking about which one's my favorite, and then I came to a realization I like a lot of Chance the Rapper songs, like a lot of them. And again, that's part of the reason why everybody thought this is the next guy because everybody likes his fucking music. But I would think personally, my favorite Chance the Rapper songs are actually on 10 Day. The number one track, I think, for me is Prom Night. I just love the, first of all, it's kind of like a storytelling song, but it also has like this childlike wonder and this carefreeness that was trademark to a lot of Chance the Rapper's early music, where it just felt like you were free, felt like you were like people were having fun. I think this was pre. So we haven't even talked about the ad lib. And I think that yeah, Prom Night was just one of those fun songs, great sample. But it was just one of those fun, free songs, and he was really just like rapping about the idea that, he did this during his suspension. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with my life. And I
Hmm.
could have done all this on my prom night, but I didn't because I was on tour doing other shit. So that song is one of my favorites. It is my favorite. I think these are my 10 Days probably my favorite project, which is
Okay.
feels a little
Okay.
hipstery to say that.
A little
Even
bit.
because I did not listen to 10 Day when it originally came out. Gotta be keep
Hmm.
it 1,000. But I think that it's probably my favorite project. Even a song like Nostalgia, I liked a lot. So yeah, the carefreeness of that music, of that project is something that really hits. And the sample, the it's I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's just a
It's an
carefree.
energy. It's an
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, I know what I think you're right about 10 Day. 10 Day was one of those albums that or mixtapes that was slept on at the time,
Hmm.
and it really holds up if you listen to it now. My favorite song off 10 Day, Family, that would have been my answer if you asked me like at the time when Chance was at his peak. Like if you asked me in 2018, Family would be my favorite Chance song of all time. I think it's time we trying to get into this new project. We've shown him a lot of love in his past. We've
Yep.
not talked about the big day basically at all. Chance, you're welcome. Um,
It was
so
really bad, guys. It was astonishing. Let's do a little bit here.
was
It,
it that bad? Was it that bad?
I'll be honest with you. When I heard it, I remember exactly where I was when I was listening to it. That is a statement within itself, by the way. I remember
Same.
exactly where I was when I was listening to it. I remember I was in Canadian Tire. I was working in the back. I was in the warehouse. Okay. I was moving things in the back cage. Everybody knows if they worked at the same places. So we're doing stuff in the back cage. And I was listening to this album and I was like, I listened to song one, song two. I'm like, it's not really that good. Song three, I'm like, not really. Song four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. I'm like,
Okay, we get it. We get
and then
it.
I'm like, yo, I just really kidding myself. I'm like, yo, this album sucks. Like real shit. Like
You know
not
what it
even,
was? It wasn't a Chance album. That's the thing is,
yeah.
it was not really a Chance project. And to add to that, I think as well, he was trying to appeal to a larger audience when that wasn't really what he should have been doing. That's my take on it. And then here's the part that is so crazy to say because this is something that makes me feel even more hipstery than you.
Hmm.
Is 2 years later he released a project with Jeremiah, "Merry Christmas, Little Mama," one of the best Christmas albums of all time. If you know, you know. And that kind of was under the radar. And I was like, okay, the hype is gone.
Yeah.
Because the Christmas project was quality. It was a lot of good records on it. And, people really weren't in that. So I think after that Christmas album flopped, he was like, okay, I got to go away for a bit
Yeah. I'll
because the good music didn't save me.
yeah, I'll just say Hot Shower, that is genuinely one of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life.
Oh
Genuinely.
my gosh. Everyone hates Hot Shower. I don't actually hate it as much as everyone else does, but and this is the thing that this is probably actually the start of me realizing that the internet is not good for you because all the feelings everyone had on the internet, I did not have. And when I first heard the album, Hot Shower was one of the songs that I saved. And it's one of those records that once you hear the jokes about it or someone talk about it on the internet, you can't unhear that,
Yeah.
But if you hear it first, you're like, okay, it's fine. And I think that is a lot of artists suffered from this, but I think Chance suffered a lot from this, where the internet got to a lot of people first.
Yeah.
It's like you needed probably two listens to get it yourself and like it, but you didn't even get that far. The internet got to it first, and it was over from that. Before we talk about this new project and this whole sound that he has now,
Hmm.
we talked about him being the next up.
Yeah.
That was so real. Like he has some big features. He has songs with Ed Sheeran,
Everybody.
Bieber, SZA, Cardi B, DJ Khaled, Kanye West.
Quavo, Two Chains, when Two Chains was Two Chains.
2 Chainz is still 2 Chainz. Let's not get it
But he was
twisted.
he was a bigger Two Chains back then. Mega the Stallion, like anybody. It's
Yeah.
anybody,
So
everybody. John Legend,
he
bro.
Yeah, he was still kind of one of the guys to go to for a certain type of record. Um, this album here, I think the production is what stood out to me on the first listen.
Okay.
Because I said he's back to his roots. Like I said, it reminded me of Coloring Book, Acid Rap, 10 Day. And something I've said about Chance that I still actually feel more now that this album Starline is out is
Mhm.
that he is almost an evolution of Kanye West's soul sound, but taking it kind of in his own direction. And the soulfulness of his records, I think people think more of him as like a gospel type of artist. When it's funny, even though I listen to gospel literally all the time, I never think of Chance in that way.
Right.
But I think maybe it's people who don't listen to gospel that's like, his the soulfulness comes out more. But I think of again the soulful Chicago sound that Kanye popularized with Chance, and that's really where his home is. There's a sample on this project, Tree with Lil Wayne and Smino. Not one of my favorite songs on here, I gotta say.
No?
One I like the concept of it. Odd as a single for me. But the
What's the interpolation from?
India RE,
Okay.
and I think this is one of those records that it's like this is such a Chance song. And even though I don't love it, I give him credit for making a song like this because this is the kind of song that we're like, this is a song for you to make.
Hmm.
This is a song that you do the best, you do well. So even though I don't love it, I like when artists make records like that. Like make the record that quote unquote only you can make.
Yeah, I think that I like that song a lot actually. So I was kind of surprised that you said you didn't like it. But maybe it's because I like the interpolation, you know.
Mhm.
I
I didn't like
like
that. I didn't like the original NDRE song when it was out the first time. So maybe I'm just you do anything with that record, I'm just
You didn't like that track? That's crazy.
no,
That's
I didn't like that
actually
record either. Yeah.
that's insane. But yeah, I think that it was a fun interpolation, a fun sample just in general. I think that Chance the Rapper's production definitely went up a level. Hard not to go up a level from the big day, to be quite honest, but it definitely went up a level.
Jeez.
It went up a level.
Poor
You
guy.
definitely felt like you're right. Like the coloring book influence or the coloring book ideas were revamped. Even on a song of like Speed of Light, because even on Speed of Light you get your right, lots of and there was like this, this a little bit of like that dance, the was it or New Orleans bounce to it. And that's something that I feel like Chance was leaning towards when it came to coloring book, but then, the big day kind of derailed that. But it was still dancey, just like coloring book was still like had dance elements to it, and then he was still able to bring in BJ the Chicago Kid and Lion Babe, like his other work. So it wasn't out of the realm. It was just shinier, like especially in the back half where you have like this huge like melange of vocals
Hmm.
everything's flying every which way and it's so breathy and airy. Like that's Chance the Rapper, bro. That's like I don't want to say peak Chance the Rapper, but that's Chance the Rapper at his best when it comes to the songs that he's creating.
Yeah, I think I have it in my notes here that he has all these dance records because a lot of people on the interwebs were saying this is a dance album.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna go that far, but he has a few of them, and this is kind of his lane that he does so well. Like I think that's what Coloring Book had that Acid Rap didn't, and made Coloring Book such a big record at the time. And he brought it back for this one. You mentioned that song "Speed of Light." That's one that he does it as well.
Yeah.
He does it on "Burn Your Block." That's another
Hmm.
one where it's like, okay, we're hitting the pace here. And I think this is to me Chance's single. Like none of these are singles. He never makes them singles, but Chance, this is how he gets that commercial record. Like that's his version of it. Of course he's been on big songs before, big
Hmm.
features. No Problem was everywhere at that time. But I think this is his version of those like danceable records. Like he's not making a trap record. Chance is not making a Bad and Bougie. That's just not gonna happen.
He tried to
That's
with Drape to Mania? Yeah.
Trixomania.
Drape to Mania. That was a
You think
hardcore
so?
that was the quote unquote hardest Chance the Rapper has ever sounded in his entire life.
You know what's funny? I actually like that song a lot. That to me is more like his Chicago drill record.
Okay.
He is from Chicago. He has songs with G Herbo. Like,
Yeah.
so that to me is more that lane, but I just can't see him having the kind of upbeat trap, right? Like a young Dolph would have,
No, no, no.
or a Key Glock. Like Chance is not in that lane. So his upbeat records are more of the dance variety. And I think he hits all of those out of the park. I think that he just has the voice control, the breath control, the different voices on these records. So the production and his voice go together so well. Like he's, I think, one of the best rappers still at using his voice as an instrument correctly. Like when we talk about production, he still is one of the best at that. The one song to me that probably is growing on me the more I listen to it, like the first couple listens of this album, I was like, cool record. I got other ones I like more. But Link Me in the Future,
Link me in the future.
um,
Continue.
say it again.
No,
Oh, yeah,
continue. I was
yeah,
just
yeah. Link Me in the Future. That is a record where originally on the first listen, it's kind of that like underwater feel, like very, very like immersive and like kind of like shrunken, as I would say, is the sound of
hmm
it. Um, and then his singing in it, he's singing a lot on this project. I'm not the biggest like I gotta hear Chance sing, but I think what made me appreciate his singing on this album and Link Me in the Future is the one where I was like, and I hate to compare it to another Chicago rapper, but it's very Kanye like, where
hmm
it's almost like the imperfection of his singing is what makes it work. And Link Me in the Future is one of those records that I'm like, yeah, if he could sing this, I could sing this. I think that's why it works.
Yeah, I think that's how, you're right. It does work in that way. But his music has always been like that, I think.
Hmm.
Especially in the earlier, I'm trying to think acid rap, that was similar. Like his singing was I remember there would being like a discussion of like his singing is very earnest. Person who
Yes,
sings like a
yes.
regular human being and you can
Mm-hmm.
feel the emotion coming through his singing because it's like normal.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas somebody like Adele, that being able to sing that well is not normal.
Not
That's
normal.
not, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so there was something about exactly what you're saying, where it's imperfect, right? It's imperfect, so there is a relatability to his music, which is something that people used to talk about a lot when it came to his
Hmm.
music. I want to bring up Drapetomania just one last time. This is probably, I would say one of the first missteps feel like on the album. Just because, I mean, first it's track five, right? So I feel like it's one of the first missteps, just because Chance the Rapper not really selling the tough guy aesthetic to me. And I don't know how much that really works for many other people, but it never really worked for me. And I think that the last time he did a song where it was like a tough aesthetic is, I'm trying to think of, like, I think it was actually called 10 days, where it
Hmm.
was like 10 days where he was doing the remix, or he was sampling Waka Flocka, Fuck This Industry,
Yeah.
right? That's probably one of the better songs where I was like, oh, he's kind of, it was a little bit of a flex. But other than that, I've never really felt like Chance the Rapper was tough or
Do you
intimidating.
is it the sonics of this record or what he's actually saying here? Because I think you're right. The sonics is definitely giving I'm drilling.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the sonics that's throwing you off. You're like his
Yeah,
voice with the drilling.
the like it's detuned piano chords
Hmm.
or piano notes in it. Like if this was like the baby, maybe.
Oh, the baby would kill this.
Yeah, like then we're actually talking about something. Yeah, the baby is probably the best example.
Well, listen, old school Lil Bibby, for y'all who know who that is.
Sure, sure, why not? So I think that, yeah, that was a misstep, but I enjoyed most of the production, man. I thought that the dance and the gospel elements and the soul
Hmm.
samples, they were all pulled in a very nice way. Even a song like Space and Time, I like Space and Time.
Yeah, Space and
And
Time is good.
I like Space and Time, and I was not a fan of Jesus is King, and that's pretty much in the same lane as Kanye's Jesus is King.
Yeah, you know what I think about this project, and I think it's almost like I call the gospel chords.
hmm
When I talked about the interlude "That's Love" with the organ, it's kind of like there's a way that music is played in a black church that doesn't exist anywhere else. And I
Yeah.
think Chance kind of takes a lot of those tenets in his own music. The one song that is actually growing on me, that at first I was like, what are we really doing here? is Gun in Your Purse.
Oh, I like that song a lot, actually. Yeah.
Um, that's one of those records with him, Tia Corinne, and Young Thug that I was like, this song is again something that's like feels very only Chance can do. And why I keep saying that is like those are the records that I feel like your album needs to be full of for a lot of artists.
Hmm.
You know, it's like you can't like, and we talked about this with JID. How much artists did we name on the JID album that weren't
A
JID?
lot. A lot.
Like,
Too many.
and it's too many, and it's like a lot of artists might try and do some of these records, but this is a Chance record from the sound, the beat itself, to the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, put this gun in your purse being the lyric, being the chorus.
That's a
It's
Playboy.
almost
This is a Playboy Cardi song to me. Like, it's an early
the,
stage
the
Playboy
the
Cardi.
repetitiveness of it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
repetitiveness of it, of the chorus, and the fact
Mhm.
that it's super like the syllables are super small together. It reminded me a lot
Yeah.
of Playboy Cardi.
And I think maybe at first I was like, Chance, you're above this. Like you can do better than this. After all, I was like, I don't hate it. So
No, bro. There's no above Playboy Cardi. He is the top. There's no
oh,
above.
okay, we're gonna move on from that. But I think this project to me shows that there's kind of a self-awareness of his home sonically.
Hmm.
Because we talk about an artist being a musician, a poet, or entertainer. I think Chance has always been all three. There's been times in this past where a little more to one side than the other.
Yeah.
But I think the musician part is really heavy on this one, and as well the entertainer. But I think what he does with his voice on a lot of these songs, whether it's like songs where he's singing at certain points, rapping at certain points, the real earnest singing, like you said, where it's like, damn, bro, like you really feeling this.
Hmm.
So I think this is an album where he's like, yeah, like I'm the star here. My voice, my vocal range, my rapping ability. I'm gonna actually lean into that and make it work here.
Yeah, I think it's super solid. Super solid. Very, very few missteps. Even a song like Letters, which I'm not
Hmm.
huge on Letters, but
Hmm.
I thought the production on Letters is amazing. Like, I
Yeah,
really,
Letters is like one of those songs that doesn't have a lot of replay value to me.
hmm.
Like I have that actually for lyrics, and I in my notes I have like this is like a Kendrick song, you
Hmm.
know? It's like it's very profound, important messaging. Everyone will talk about it, but will you go back and listen to it? Maybe
Yeah,
not.
maybe not.
You
But it's
know?
really good. That's, being from Chicago, I think that Chance is an artist who he doesn't just take from the current sound, but he picks away at the historical sound from the same region. So that's where you can have gospel music, and you can have jazz, and you can have like the Kanye influence, and then you can have the drill that we were talking about. Like he's a person that is not just like this is what's hot right now in the city. It's like this is what we were hot doing in the city, and then is able to pull them all into a fist, right? And I think that that's what happens with Letters, where he's like, okay, I was doing the gospel stuff, we did some of the dance stuff, we did a little bit of the drill stuff, but now let me dig into the jazz, right? Let me dig into the jazz portion of what was happening in the city. And let me do like basically, he's this kind of reminds me of like old jazz musicians where, it's not, I don't want to say scatting, but he was just like, his voice is almost dissonant from the actual production. Like
Hmm.
he's
Hmm.
just off the production. The production just happens to be happening, and he's saying whatever he wants to say. In 2025, I think you can do that for like a song, and like, yeah, that's cool. That was an interesting thing. I don't know if you can go a whole album doing that. Maybe in 1933, 23, something like maybe. Yeah.
Oh my
But
goodness. 33 is
but the
crazy.
you gotta be on beat for multiple songs, or something like that. Like it's hard to do that for multiple songs. So I think it was good. I think it was good.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that his ability to really like draw from historical precedent from the city at the same time,
Hmm.
that's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah, I like him having some of those records on there because I think those records have a place in terms of a full album listen.
Yeah.
Every song doesn't have to be a banger you go back to. Like some of these songs kind of make the album feel more full. So I like that he has those on there. I got one last piece of production before we get into lyrics. This is maybe my favorite song on the album. It's up there. One of my favorites, Ride, featuring Do or Die. Now, he sampled the song by One Way, One Die,
Hmm.
and this song was all sampled recently by Tommy Richmond on his album. And so to hear this sample back to back, I said, "Ooh, that sample is back again." I like Chance's better, his sample on here. Um, but I really like the kind of juxtaposition between him or Do or Die in terms of their voices.
Right.
And I think it really, really works here. And it reminded me of what he did in the past. And I think just having that foresight to not always have similar voices, like, of course, he has a song with Smino, he has a song with Vic Mensa on here.
Hmm.
But having a song with someone like Do or Die, where it's like, y'all don't are not talking about the same stuff, y'all not sounding the same, but it works, you know? And I think about one of his biggest songs with Twista, Cocoa Butter Kisses. It's like, it just works somehow. So I
Hmm.
like him having that foresight to say, you know what, we're not similar really in any way, but it's gonna work on this kind of record because I'm not familiar with Do or Die's catalog, but I would guess he doesn't have that many songs that sound like Ride.
Yeah, I doubt that as well, but I like that track a lot. Do you have anything that you want to talk about lyrically? Because I think Chance the Rapper, underrated songwriter
Yeah,
in hip hop.
super, super underrated. Yeah, like I have this part from Letters because it's so funny that we're talking about him being underrated lyrically.
Yeah.
I think most people would say that JID is miles a better rapper than Chance.
No,
I don't think so.
no, I
I
don't
don't think
think
that's
so
the
at
case. And
all.
I think he's one of those rappers who can still be respected lyrically, can hang with everyone lyrically, but doesn't get put in that lyrical miracle box, that conscious box. And I think
He
that's
doesn't
part
get
of
the box, but he should be there for especially the conscious one.
no, especially conscious,
Yeah,
but
especially the
also super
conscious one.
lyrical. And I think it's almost, I don't want to say holding him back in a sense, because I think it actually helps him. But I feel like in hip hop in 2025, being known as lyrical almost hurts you at this point.
Mm.
You know, it's like that's what people know you for. It's like I don't know what he's talking about, but I know he's lyrical. You know, and I think that he has done a great job of avoiding that. He has this verse on Letters where he says, "Dear megachurch, I hope this letter finds you, for I do. Fund a new building to hide you, I'd still be behind you. Elaborate theatrics to blind you, nickel and dime you, behind you. I've watched you worship idols. Bring a Bible, sell it for double. Brandish rifles, curse and libel. Withhold shelter from niggas for survival. First ladies walking around with furs and titles. Watch you spit in a man's face and call it God. And when it really on your dogma, it's silent Bob. You just take them government checks and smile and nod. I rebuke you in the name of the child of God. I boil a pot of living water till it's scalding hot. First of all, crazy, crazy verse. The church is not
Mhm.
gonna like that one. Is not gonna like that one. But what he's addressing in this verse, I think, is like something that you don't see a lot of rappers talk about. You know, rappers
Mhm.
talk about faith in a bunch of different ways. You know, we talked about glory on the last podcast with JID and kind of rappers either calling out to God, reaching out for God, thanking God.
Mhm.
Chance is basically scrutinizing the church, like front facing, like y'all are not living right. This is totally wrong. And why I thought this was interesting is there's two things in here that really stand out to me. One, Chance is one of the leaders, maybe in rap history. Okay, I'm gonna go as far as say that him and Lil Wayne are the two that I think of making words rhyme that don't really, really rhyme. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
using the accent, using the inflection, and making words rhyme that don't really, really rhyme, you know? And they rhyme ish, but when he says it, it's like, oh, those rhyme perfectly. The way he said it, it just fits.
Mhm.
And then as well, I saw him talk on a podcast about this record and him kind of going at the church. And his explanation for it, I thought was so interesting. He talked about the Bible, and a lot of the New Testament is people writing letters to the church. You know, people writing letters to the church and telling them what they should and shouldn't be doing. And a lot of it is scolding the church in that time. And he said, imagine they were writing letters to the church in 2025. They would be pissed. And I think this is kind of his version of that, of him being like, yeah, you guys are living wrong. This is not right. And I think for someone who's so associated with God and the gospel and Christianity in his music, how often do you see that type of artist kind of go at the church like that? That's just not something you usually see. It's kind of like an artist who's in the LGBTQ community make a whole verse going at them. Like that just doesn't
Right.
happen. So I think just that being the kind of artist that Chance is, you talked about him being conscious. This is a whole different version of conscious that I really haven't seen before. So I think we got to give him kind of credit for that as a lyricist, that this is a part of his brand. I'm sure there are people who listen to him because he's associated with Christianity. And
Yeah.
for him to kind of have this whole record going at them and at that brand, that is just something you don't really see often.
Yeah, that's gonna hit the church circle on a Saturday like nothing else. I think that Chance is one of those artists. I think we talked about this with Amine, where we're like the what is happening in the production is actually overshadowing what he says on the songs, right? Like you think of even songs like Cocoa Butter Kisses, where he's talking about like missing his mom, or I'm trying to think even on Acid Rap, there's multiple songs like this. I think it's like Chain Smoker, like the idea
Yeah.
of yeah, Chain Smoker is another one, a good one like that. Um Pusha Man, another good song like that, where the overall the production is overshadowing the track. Whereas like it's just like a good hang, like a great listen, so you're not really
Hmm.
thinking about what exactly is being said. I would say that he's been able to do that, but one of the songs that he kind of eschews that on is the Negro Problem. Um, I think that the Negro Problem is probably one of his most like not critical songs, but one of his most like analytical songs of what is happening, like what happens in one's life when they're young. This is in verse one where he says, verse one, he says, "You know it's dirty when the sink dirty. Nowadays, you're 13, you gotta think 30. Can't be out here sitting waiting on the next man. Wake up early, hit your reps, cook the eggs, man. Keep your head on a swivel because the pistols got switches on them, and even those six got extensions on them. It sound a long way from some whippings, don't it? It's all the same road with some distance on it. Now it's train police and it's school police. It's gonna be police at the balloon release. Being real, that's business as usual here. Look alive, you could die at a funeral here. It's a lot of complaints, but we just can't file them. Open case, shut case, still won't solve them. So this is another sequence that you were talking about where like some of the words actually technically don't work or rhyme. When he says what was it like school police balloon release is what rhymes, but it's like whip it like it sound a long way from some whippings, don't it? It's all the same road with some distance, like he says distance on it, right? To make it rhyme. So he is very good with the slant rhymes. That's the technical term for what we're talking about. He's good with the slant rhymes, but he's also able to talk about like how gritty and how close to the knife's edge that you live on in the specific life when he's living in like whether you're living in Chicago, whether or not you're living in any sort of rough neighborhood with black people being a predominant group in that area, there's going to be a police presence. There's going to be that idea you can die in situations that nobody would die in, like some mob type shit where you can get shot at a funeral. So, and even the idea is like nowadays you're 13, you have to think 30. That's a tough bar.
That's a bar.
Yeah.
That's a bar.
Yeah, so I think that that's a great way to say, 13 going on 30, just in like almost like in a different way. So I think that his ability to rap about these things, and again, not be labeled as a conscious rapper. Nobody ever really says he's a conscious rapper, but that's a conscious verse. Like there's not a single way you could spin it outside of that's a conscious verse. So for him to be able to do that and not really gain that label kind of shows how large or how prolific his musicality is in his music, where like nobody's like, oh yeah, we're really tapping in, we're listening to some chants. Like that's not something people would say. People would say that, listen to Lupe Fiasco or like Common,
Yes, yes.
right? But I've never heard somebody be like, yo, we're tapping in, we gotta listen to chants, right? Even though he can make a song called The Negro Problem.
And I think too he actually is, I think, more conscious than a lot of the rappers who are given that label.
Hmm.
I think conscious has become synonymous with like lyrical ability, and that's not always the case. And rap comes from a place where songs had a point. The
Yeah,
rap became, and it's like almost just having a topic makes you conscious at this point.
I know.
If we're being honest about it, that's my last set of lyrics. One thing I want to mention before we talk about his career and the album
Wait,
as a
really?
whole.
That's it? That's all you got for lyrics?
I have other things, but I want this episode to be shorter than the project.
Okay. Wait, how long are we? We're at 49. Let me say one more thing
Okay,
here.
before you go on, I want to talk about the
Yep.
name of the project.
Okay.
Starline, inspired by Marcus Garvey, trying to push Black Americans to settle in Africa in
Hmm.
the early 1900s. He talks a lot about him traveling to Africa and how that affected the creation of this project. There aren't that many songs where lyrically you see it. I think there are a couple, but I just think when we talk about him being a conscious rapper, like even that being the name of the project is
Yeah.
one of those where that's kind of where he is right now.
Yeah, I think that his consciousness is just like it's so embedded that that people are just not even recognizing. They're like, "Oh, he's just talking about his life." I'm like, "That was the origin of hip hop. That's what that's what we were doing at the beginning. That's what the trials and tribulations we were going through at the beginning and still continue to go through at this period in time in our lives. But that's what it was like at the beginning. And I think it's just people are just, I don't know, just seeing beyond that. So it's like, for example, he's at this point here. This is verse two, I think. I may paint from out the pain. Sometimes you wash the stains out in the rain. Some people pulled they fame from out the flames. Me, I'm Lorraine. I came from out the frame. My memories photographic, my slow dances was magic, my romances was tragic. My real life feel like a still life, back of the canvas just to see what it feel like. Pull counter stiff right, nigga, no time to dodge. Took some time pumping iron in my mom's garage. Then I'm back to the future. This is a time machine. Back on my feet. This is a time massage. Surprise, it's the boy from the premature burial. Fresh off the boat with a story and a stereo. You bound to see tears if you ball enough. They say the harder you fall if you tall enough. And I fall. Um, that is just a tight verse. Probably one of the better rapped verses I've heard in this year. And for him to, say that, I'm Lorraine, like Lorraine Toussaint, right? And to be like, I came from out the frame was is great. My memories photographic, my slow dances was magic, my romances was tragic. So again, he's pulling from his actual life to make these songs. And even the ideas like I may paint from out of pain. Sometimes you wash the stains out in the rain. That's just like, when people when you have paint and you're wearing a smock, you actually like wash it. That's like sometimes how people
Yeah.
wash it too. So he is somebody who is able to take multiple forms and join them. Like I mentioned with Amine, where you just like taking these spaces, like these characters, ideas, these concepts from spaces that do not feel like they fit together and is able to tie them together. And this is why we, for such a long time, we're lauding Chance the Rapper as like one of the best rappers in the game because it wasn't just because of how the music sounded, but it's like if you read the lyrics to most of his songs, like he was saying real shit and it actually sounded good when he said it. And like when you mentioned, like the slant rhymes worked, right? Where for most other artists, it did not.
I think this to me, if you're talking about what this means for his career and what this is going forward, like he's almost back in that spot. I think
Mm.
I think there's almost a second part of how we're viewing artists where there's how popping you are online and like is the music actually good? And I talked
Hmm.
about it last week with JID is like, no, he never reached this Kendrick level or whatever. But is he making good albums? Yes.
Yeah.
And I think chances this is a good album to me. Like he's back to making good music. And I think you talk about like the quality of the music he's making, his quality as a rapper and an artist and a musician, he's back, in a place that not many can go. Like, totally different lanes. I think about someone like Lil Baby, who
Hmm.
had this so, like, he came up like while Chance was still around, Big Day, like he was coming up. But
Yep.
basically, as soon as Chance stopped, Lil Baby kind of had his time, and that was his run, in those 6 years. It's like I don't think Lil Baby has one project as good as 10 Day. You know,
No.
like so it's like, I've always said on this podcast, but in general, like for me, the mark is 4 projects. As an artist, if you have 4 good quality projects, you're already in legacy status because that's
Mhm.
tourable. People remember you, and this would be Chance's fourth. If you're saying the first 3,
Yeah.
skip Big Day, didn't happen, rest in peace, and then you go to this one. So in terms of what this means for his career, obviously a huge comeback album. I think this probably is going to be comeback album of the year unless Cardi has a better album than this. Cardi B,
Mm.
that is.
Okay.
Playboy Cardi, I think you could say the comeback album, but I
Uh,
wouldn't call it that. A Whole Lot of Red was still good, so I
yeah,
wouldn't call it a
exactly.
comeback album. But this is comeback album of the year for sure. The music itself is actually good. The public perception is actually good.
Yeah.
And I think people are aware that it's good because we talked a bit after the podcast last week about how rollouts have changed, who's doing press, who's not doing press, and how that affects how an album is viewed. I think how an album is viewed is probably bigger than it's ever been before because almost every album is very, very niche, even the biggest ones that do really well.
Hmm.
There's a whole group of millions of people who don't listen to this at all. That's just where we're at now. And those people who didn't listen to Chance's album will be like, at least I heard it's good. That's all that
Yeah.
matters. After the big day was such a flop, all you need to know, I heard it was good. So
Good. Yeah.
for me, this is a big win for Chance.
Me too. I think the idea of, you know, good music is always a plus. We're still in the business of selling songs. We're
Hmm.
still in the business of making waves that sound good to the human ear. And I think that the fact that he can drop a project where it significant amount of people are listening to it and everyone, I haven't
Hmm.
heard a dissenting opinion in this forum. Everybody is saying it's good. That is massive for him because the last time we heard about Chance the Rapper on a grand scale, it was it's fucking terrible, right? So for him to turn it around in that sense, is huge. It's been what, 6 years, 7 years, between this album and the big day. So the idea that he can actually make that turn and for it to be like something that sticks with many people, that's
Hmm.
massive.
Yeah.
That's massive because to be honest, the big day looked kind of uncomebackable from. Like it looked that way. like it looked
I never thought that, but it was rough. It was
it
rough.
was that was really bad. And it was bad in a sense of like universally regarded as bad. And it's hard to come back from stuff like that. Rebecca Black came back from Friday, so that means
Friday, Friday was a hit, man. Don't
eh,
even talk about Friday like
if
that.
you go back and listen to Friday now, you're like, I can see what was good, what we
Come
were trying to
on.
do.
Friday was a hit. You throw Playboy Cardi on that? What are we
Yeah,
doing?
exactly. So I think that this is a good album. I'm happy for it. It's great for his career. The cover. We
Hmm.
haven't talked about the cover. Well, we kind of did at the beginning, but I didn't really say much about it. You're right about the idea that it's continuing that aesthetic theme of coloring book and acid rap. Like whoever is doing, I don't know who the artist is that does the art for those particular projects, but that is his aesthetic. Like he should never distance himself from that ever. Like it looks phenomenal. The teal, blue, and he's wearing a different style of hat. I kind of wish it had like he's wearing like a fisherman's hat. I wish it kind of had like a dangling three, like on the
Hmm.
side. I think that would have been just a little, a little callback, but also amazing. But regardless, I think it looks incredible. Like just off the art, it looks amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Amazing, amazing cover. And this is the rare time I feel like the cover fits the music. Like we
Hmm.
do so many albums where the music and the cover are 2 different things. Like JID's cover last week, incredible. That cover don't sound like work.
No.
Work and that cover don't go together. 2 great pieces of art, but do they go together? I'm not sure. This cover looks like how the music sounds. So big points for this cover for me.
Yeah. Okay. Is it a no skips though?
What did someone say we should call it? A soft skip? This is a soft skip
Yeah,
for
a
me.
soft skip.
Yeah, like every song is not amazing, but I definitely could play this album all the way through and not have to change any songs. Like
Yeah,
just sonically, it has that feeling.
yeah, I would say it's not a no skip just because of Drapetomania. I just don't think that song is very good. And it's
Yeah.
also quite early. It's quite early. It's song number 5 out of 17. So I have to give it a skippable, non-no
Hmm.
skip. Um, okay. The moment everybody's been waiting for, and I feel like this is actually significant, this score for Chance the Rapper. Like,
For him, yes.
yeah, for
Personally,
Chance the
he's
Rapper,
been
yeah.
waiting for this score. Like
Yeah, he's been
he's
waiting for it.
concerned.
So, Adriel,
Hmm.
what is your score for Chance the Rapper's Starline?
This is an 8 for me.
Wow.
I thought about giving it an 8.5, but this album I really liked a lot. Like this is an album that I'm like almost listening to for pleasure at this point. Like
Hmm.
it really, and I think why I like this album so much is lyrically, he can stand on his own. Musically, absolutely incredible. But this album sounds like nothing that we're hearing right now.
Hmm.
And I think back to the title of the Creator album, "Don't Touch the Glass." And how that kind of sounds different from where hip hop is, in a sense. Both those guys have their own sounds.
Yeah.
Tyler's album sounds like Tyler. This album sounds like Chance. But I think why this album stands out to me and I like it so much is because it has some more of these other elements where the casual fan or the casual hip hop fan can grab a record. There are those records in here. They're like, okay, maybe I want to hear this. Maybe I want to hear this, or maybe I know this song because someone mentioned it because he talks about this in the song. So there's all these things in this album that are kind of interesting in different ways that can kind of pull people from other areas. So this is an 8 to me. I can be convinced of 8.5,
Wow.
but I'll keep it as an 8 right now.
Okay, for me, Chance the Rapper's Starline, I'm gonna put it at a 7.5. I came in here at a 7 because I was lower on a couple of things like Burn Your
Mhm.
Block. But I don't hate Burn Your Block. I'm just not a big fan of it. I'm kind of neutral. But I think that production overall, very good. I think his rapping is still underrated. Again, not really regarded as a one of the
Mhm.
best lyricists or the best just like songwriter in hip hop. Just not framed in that way, even though he is. If you just like read the lyrics of the songs. So I think that his rapping is phenomenal as well. I just think that there's a few flubs. Burn Your Block, I'm still actually I'm out on it. I'm still out on it. Still out on it. Still out on Drape to Mania. This is like a few songs that I'm out on, but it's good, bro. And I'm surprised that we're saying how good it really is. Like, it could have been like a 6 or something like that, and we're like, okay, like at least he's crawling his way back in. But we're here like, no, the just Chance the Rapper's dropping good music. He's back to that again, which is
Mhm.
again something some of us did not think that that was going to happen. Like, I cannot express that enough. Like, some people thought it was done.
I don't know about never make good music again because the track record was too strong, but maybe like put music out again. Because even the records that he released, like Highs and Lows, we didn't talk about, that's a really good song.
Hmm.
Wraith, he released earlier. The loose songs he had put out had all been good. It was like, will he be Chance again? It's not often that the artists we think are critically acclaimed for the right reasons
Yeah.
become the big artists. We're seeing that happen way more now with the Clips having the great year they're having.
Hmm.
But it's very rare to the artists who were like think of the Album Mode Hall of Fame. The artists we have in the Album Mode Hall of Fame almost have no shot at going number one. Arlo Parks, Vince Staples, like Last Dinner Party, like these are not the
Yeah.
biggest artists in the world. So to have him be make some of the best music and become the biggest, very, very, very rare. So I totally understand what you're saying. I want to know what everyone thinks in the comments. Okay, you
Me
can
too.
comment on Spotify now. Comment on Spotify. Let us know. Are our scores too high? Favorite chant song of all time? And then, of course, is he back?
Is he back?
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Are we back?
Yeah, is he back? I want to know what you guys think. Of course, find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on all platforms. Find us on YouTube at Album Mode. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Ah!